All right, and we're recording. This is CAD 212, Class 7 on September 9th. Today we'll be going over different roof types. Then in Revit we'll learn how to draw roofs, we'll learn how to do hiding objects and editing walls, and we'll also discuss openings. Beginning of class, we're going to be going over some universal problems that look like people were having when they submitted their models. So we're going to start with that. Okay. All right, for the most part, all the model work was really good. There are a couple of things that are just kind of a learning curve that people seem to have trouble with when we get started. So we can go ahead and fix some of those now. What I want you to do is when you have your walls laid out, sometimes it does help to have it set to consistent color. And then especially when you go to 3D, have that set to consistent color. That way, when you look at your model, you can see that there's something weird going on. And right away, you can see if some of these walls are backwards. So I laid out this one right here, and you can see that the walls are pretty inconsistent. This wall is obviously inside out. So if you have it set to consistent color, it helps you catch those kind of errors. So how do I fix that? Well, it's real easy. We go back to level 1. And if we click on the wall itself, remember we have our toggles here that show you the direction of the wall. So this one is facing the correct way. If these arrows are on the outside, then the exterior side of the wall is on the outside. And all I have to do is flip these back. And then I go to 3D. You'll see I've got all my walls in the direction that they're supposed to be facing. Obviously, this isn't as big a deal for your interior walls because those are chipboard on both sides, but it's very important on your exterior walls. And once we start getting into more complex walls, you want to make sure that they're facing the right direction. Okay. Another big one that people had trouble with was floors, your slabs versus your finished floors. And this is a universal thing that comes up a lot too. So just a refresh on floors, architecture tab, build plant panel, floor tool. If we're going to do the slab, we can create our own slab work, but we'll just use this generic default for now. Or you can click on here for your slab and get that laid out. Another way to draw out your slab is you can also draw it. I can't remember if we touched base on this or not, but if you just wanted to draw the slab, you can do that as well if you didn't want to use the pick wall default. Here I'm just going to use the rectangular tool and I'll draw that in place. I'll hit my green check mark and I'll go to 3D. And there's my slab. Now for my finished floors, go back to level 1. Remember, the finished floor is going to lay on top of this floor. And we can create our own floors by going to floor. I'll start with the generic. We want to go to edit type, duplicate, and I'll just call this carpet. I'll call it floor, carpet, my initials. And then we go into edit. We want to change the function to a finish layer. And we want to change the thickness. I saw some 6-inch floors. I saw some ones that didn't change, but you want to change this to the thickness of the material. So we're just going to estimate that as 0.25 inches or 1/4 inch for what we need right now. So make sure that you do change your thickness. And then we'll just go in and pick the material that we want. We'll use the carpet. Oops. Always want to make sure I use render appearance here. Now I can OK out of that. And the thing that people are forgetting is that for the thickness of the carpet that you created or the finished floor, that's the amount you have to raise this. So you can go back and you can just make that 1/4 of an inch. Now that's going to raise itself above there. I'm going to still use my drawing tool. I'll use my rectangular tool again. And then I can just draw that in place. Let's go to 3D. And now you can see that my carpet is actually on top of my slab. What a lot of y'all are experiencing is something that looks like this. Something that when it does that, that means both your floor and your slab are on the same level. So when we click on one of them, they're both going to be at a height offset of 0. So in order to fix that, if you do have something that kind of looks like this, it kind of squishes together. When you see it, you want to get that carpet material that you created and just change that offset to 1/4 of an inch at that time. And then it will raise it and you will not have that issue anymore. All right, let me go back to level 1. A couple people did not have their drawing included in the elevation markers. All your drawings should be included somewhere within these elevation markers, so it's pointed at it. So if for some reason you don't have that, it was kind of out here like this, make sure that you just highlight all the pieces in there, and then you can just drag that into place so it's centered within your model. Okay. When you're creating your walls and getting them in place, you'll notice that we do have these temporary dimensions that we talked about. Well, you don't have to leave the temporary dimensions on there. Remember, we want to go ahead and delete those temporary dimensions. So you can just highlight them and delete them. So if you had comments about that. And then lastly, for old stuff, window direction was kind of mixed up on a few of y'all's as well. So notice when I'm putting this window in here, it's going to face different directions, how it flips back and forth. So pay attention to that. If I click here and I notice my little toggles right here are inside, that means my window is inside out. So I can click on that and it'll flip it around, and now my little toggles are on the outside. So that's just a quick fix. Here it's backwards again. You can see the difference in the profile, and then we'll just flip that. Okay. Any questions about the old work or any comments that you had in your other project?
Yes, I had a question about the floor.
Yes.
Just, I know you said the top layer will go to the extended part of the slab. On the interior walls, are we bringing, if their floor is changing from room to room, just in the center of that wall?
If you have a floor that changes, like right here, say this half is wood and this half is carpet.
Yes.
Yeah, if you have that, that's not a problem. We can fix that too. Say, for instance, you have a client that comes in and says, I want to do half wood, half carpet, exactly what you just described. You can click on here, make this active, go to Edit Boundary, and then we can manipulate the boundary to the size and shape that we want it to look, and then hit this green check mark. Now just this part is going to be carpet, and then I can come back and lay the wood flooring on this area as well, just by going in. So let's go in floor, and I'm just going to change it to something else just to kind of show the difference on this. And then I can just draw that same shape that I want. Even if I wanted to draw like this weird shape right here, we wanted to do something like that. Well, this wall, this floor is very thick, so it's going to give me that error. But when I click off of that, it's going to look like this. So yeah, you can make it whatever shape you want and has many numbers as you want of it. This is just a really thick floor, which is why it gave me that overlapping arrow. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions, y'all?
When you pulled your on the level view, when you pulled it into the realm of north, east, west, did that also move level 2 to?
Yes, it moves. Yeah, it moves everything at the same time.
Okay.
So yeah, and there was only a few people that did that. So that's usually not something that comes up. It's usually a once or twice kind of thing at the beginning of class, and everybody kind of draws within the elevation markers. But yeah, it does move everything at the same time.
Okay.
Anything else, y'all? Okay. If you do have any other questions going forward, shoot me an email and we can set up some time to meet if you have further questions about the work that you've already done. But from here, we'll go ahead and move on to the new material. That's going to talk about roof types. First off, before we go into the Revit work, I want you to go into Canvas and open up a couple of files. We'll go into that first. So under fall 2020, you have a new file in there with roof information on here. We'll go ahead and open that up. We'll see that we have different roof styles, a roof diagram, and a roof pitch chart. Let's go ahead and open up the bottom roof styles first. And this is just going to give you a wide variety of obvious different roof styles that are available within, you know, architecture. So the main ones that we're going to concentrate on that we're going to talk about are this gable roof right here and this hip roof right here. We'll also have, some people tend to work on some flat roofs, and sometimes we'll have a shed roof and things, but these are typically the ones that we use. And you will need to know the distinction between open gable roof, which has this peak here and the wall goes all the way up, to, it says pyramid roof, but it's, when we draw it, you'll understand it. This is a typical roof types that you'll see. And here's another hip and valley roof right here. So it's multiple hips, and then this is the valley on here. So these are some different roof types, but those are the two that you'll really need to know, gables and hips. We'll be talking about those a lot. This is a basic roof parts diagram. It gives you an idea of how the roof is constructed. When we're looking at architectural plans, when we're talking about certain aspects of the building, such as roofs or walls or things like that, you're going to have these very high level detailed drawings that give you how those particular pieces are built and created. This is really where your contractor gets a lot of the information, how they want to create these pieces of the building. It's really important for them to get this information correct and for us to know what these different pieces are when we look at them, especially for roofs. So just the basic information that we're going to be going over today is the fascia, which is this piece that covers the rafters and the subfascia. So we have our rafter that comes down here, subfascia, and then the actual fascia that goes over that. We're going to be drawing that. Then gutters, which attach to the fascia. We'll be learning how to draw those as well. And then the soffit. The soffit is the part that covers underneath the gap between the exterior wall and the edge of the roof. So it covers up those rafters there as well, so you don't see up that. So these are the typical things that we're going to be drawing today. So fascia, soffit, and gutters. But we're not going to go over this too much in this class, but it is good for you to know the different aspects of how a roof is created. And once you get into more commercial roofs, we'll see some examples of that later on. It gets a lot more complicated than this. And then finally, I give you this information just to have it. That's a roof pitch chart. We're going to be talking about pitch for the roof, and this is kind of a good concept to know, especially if you're starting to draw this in AutoCAD. So for every 12 inches horizontally corresponds with every inch you go vertically. So for every 12 inches across, if you go 1 inch up, that's a 4.5 degree slope. So for every 1 foot across this way, or 12 inches, and if you go 12 inches up, that equals a 45 degree slope. You're not going to need to remember this, but it is nice to know. And as we go through and you're required to do different things, you're going to have different slopes to create. So it's good to know how they break down and it gives you a good visual of how these look when you want to create something. We're not going to be doing the math to create the slope for the roof that you have right now, but this will give you good visuals to help you gauge, what it would be, what kind of slope it would be, 712, 612, and this will make a little bit more sense as we learn how to use that in Revit. But just familiarize yourself with the stuff in this file right now. You can just read through that between now and next class just to make sure that you're familiar with it. And this last one here is just some basic roof types that will that are still covered in this part right here with the roof style diagrams. All right, so first thing we want to do, we're going to go ahead and jump into Revit, and we're going to talk about different roofs and how to create them. We're going to do just basic roof to start. So what people will usually do is it's always good to start in the level that you want your roof at, if you want it on level 2 or level 1. But most people will just start in level 1 and just not pay attention to where they're starting their roof. And that's okay. So let's learn how to fix that. So we're in a level, and obviously you want to go to Architecture tab, Build Panel Roof Tool. If you do the roof drop down, you'll see there's various different ways that we can create a roof. We're going to use the default one, which is roof by footprint. And then under this tool, you'll also see this is where we create our soffit, fascia, and gutters. So for our regular roof, we'll just use roof by footprint. And it's going to give you this this window here that says, you have created the roof on the lowest level. Would you like to move it to level 2? You know what, a lot of times people ignore that and they just go, no, they're not paying attention to it. That's okay. So the next thing we want to do is just keep continuing making our roof. It's going to default to boundary line and pick walls. So when we come over here, it's going to pick these different walls for us. So if I just do that, notice this slope part is on the outside, which is what we want it to look like, and it defaults to a 9/12 slope. And I'll just pick around here. So I just have one roof line on each side. And then what I'll do first is I'll just go ahead and go to my green check mark. And it's going to ask you if you want these walls to attach. And for now, as we're going through this, always put don't attach. So the next thing we want to do is always go to 3D and see what we created. Well, that looks ridiculous. So most people will be like, oh man, I got to delete that and redraw it. We don't have to redraw it. What we should have done was we should have started on level 2, and then when it gave you that error, it's like, do you want to move it to level 2? Hint, hint. Yeah, we should have done that. But a lot of times this happens. It gets created on the wrong level, but that's okay. All we have to do is click on it, highlight it, make it active, come back over here to our properties, change the base level from level 1 to level 2 and apply, and it automatically just raises your roof. So granted, yes, it's still in the middle of these walls, but we're going to learn how to fix that today as well. So it's not a great looking roof. It's just kind of, there's no overhang or anything with it. You know, once again, how would I fix that? Well, I'm going to go to level 2 this time where I should have been. I'm going to highlight the roof. I'm going to go to edit footprint. You should start to see a pattern now, how you can edit all this stuff, and then you can change all of it through properties and things like that. So hopefully that's one of the big things to sink in. So if I want to add an overhang to this house and not have to redraw my roof, I can highlight this edge. Notice in my ribbon right here, it gives me an overhang section. Here is where I can write, say I want a 3-foot overhang. Notice how that moved itself. And I'm going to go to the next one and do the same thing. There's 3 foot here, 3 foot here, and 3 foot here. Now when I go back to my green check mark, we still don't want to attach those. Let's go back to 3D. All right, we're starting to look a little bit better. So there's a couple of different ways I can fix these walls. The best way to fix the walls right now is to attach top to base, is what it's called. So that means when I highlight this wall and I come up here to my ribbon, go away. Notice there's a tool here that's called attach top to base. So I can click on that, make it active, and then I want to click on the roof that I want it attached to. And it will automatically attach to the bottom of that roof. It gave me that error because of the type of wall I'm using. It's a complicated wall, but that's the only reason why it gave me that error message, because it's eliminating this brick soldier profile right here. So another way I can change the wall height is highlight the wall, and I can come over to the level right here to my properties where it says unconnected 20 feet. If I change that to 10 feet, let's see what happens. So it just shrunk that to 10 feet. So there's a few different ways that we can manipulate it. The proper way to attach the walls to the roof is to use the attach top to base tool, and we'll see what the difference is in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these other 2 walls. I'll pick this one. I'm sorry about this, guys. I had to submit a ticket to get this fixed for the time limit on here, so they haven't had a chance to fix it yet. So with these 2 walls highlighted, I'm going to hit attach top to base, click on the roof, and that's going to be attached together there. So the difference between the 2 is if I click on this roof again and say I wanted this roof to be offset another 5 foot. Well, move the roof up 5 foot, and only the walls that had attached top to base, since they are attached to the roof, moved at the same time. The other wall stayed in place because this other wall is set to 10 feet. But these walls are connected to the roof, so they moved at the same time. You can also see the top profile, how that's different. This roof ends at an angle, and this one is flat, so I can see that there's a difference there. Hide this. You can see that I'll know that if you attach the roof to the walls to the roof by this angled wall connection here, because it'll be attached to the roof. So let's do that again in a different way. Let me delete all this and start something easier. All right, I'm just gonna start with a basic wall just to keep it easy. I'm gonna use my rectangle tool to create that. So how we want to start and draw the roof is we want to go into level 2, where we want our roof to be. Oops. Still has that picked up from before. And delete. There we go. So I'm going to go to my architecture tab, build panel roof tool. I'm going to do a 3-foot overhang. When I do the overhang first, when I create this part first, notice it's going to drop in place where it's supposed to. And now I'm going to hit my green check mark. I'm going to go to 3D. And that looks a lot better. Now, if I click on these walls, I know they're not attached because they're attached up to level 2, and they're also not chamfered. They're not slanted, so I can see that they're not attached. I can still do attach top to base at this time. And now if I did raise this roof, oops, only the wall that I did attach top to base is the one that moved at the same time. So we're going to find out that sometimes this is what we want it to do, sometimes this is not what we want it to do. But it's good to know how to manipulate it either way. Any questions so far, y'all? Okay. Now, what we had talked about briefly was like the different roof types, whether it's a hip roof or a gable roof. Well, this defaults to creating hip roofs. This is a hip roof and this is a hip roof. Say for some reason your client comes in and says they want to change this particular side to a gable roof. Let's do that. We can go ahead and click on the roof, make it active. Go to edit footprint. We can click on this wall, this roof line. Unclick define slope. Notice the slope indicator right here. So if I unclick define slope for that roof, it's going to disappear. Now when I hit my green check mark and I go to 3D, notice that roof has changed to a gable roof. So we have a hip roof on one side and a gable on the other. But we've got this big gap between the gable and the wall. So we can just use attach top to base to fix that. So I'm going to click the front wall, attach top to base, click on the roof, and that's just going to pull that together really nice. And that's the best way that we can fix that. So let's do that again. I'm going to go to level 2 this time. Level 2, it gives me a weird view, but I can click on the roof, make it active, go to edit footprint, click on this roof line right here, change that roof line and unclick define slope. I'm taking the slope off of this roof line, and I hit my green check mark again. I'll go back to 3D. And I've created a gable roof on both sides. Once again, I need to attach top to base. Click this front wall, attach top to base, click on the roof, and that's just going to pull that together nicely like that. Now let's take a closer look at the roof at this moment. We'll go ahead and click on the roof. Now let's take a look at the properties. We scroll down in the properties. You'll notice under this section that says dimensions, here's the slope measurement. This refers back to that slope chart that we looked at earlier today. This is always going to default to a 9/12 slope. If we wanted to change the slope on this roof, we can just come in here, change this first measurement, say to 3, and the whole roof will move at the same time. And since our walls are attached to the roof, the walls change at the same time as well. They kind of move in unison. This is something that you'll need to do on a midterm or in the final is know how to change the slope, know how to create an overhang, know how to create a gable roof or a hip roof. Say if I wanted this to be 10/12, we have a larger peak on this roof right here. This makes sense, y'all? We've got another minute 48 on the beginning of this first recording. If you have any questions about roofs, let me know. And then we'll go ahead and drop from this recording and start part 2 for today. Hopefully they'll have this fixed soon. It shouldn't be doing this. So thanks for your patience in dealing with the weird recordings. Any questions about the roofs or anything?
The thickness of the roof would include the sheathing and the rafter and everything if you were designing?
Yes, good question. So on this one, if we look at this one really closely, it's driven by our properties. What we did on this one is we just used this basic roof, 12 inches right here. And for when we're creating our roofs in this beginning Revit class, we just use the basic roof, 12 inches, which is good. But if you do a drop down, you'll see there's a few different variables in here. And if you wanted to, usually the thing that we'll do is we'll either do a 12-inch roof or a 9-inch roof. And then you can just swap that out. You can just kind of notice how the thickness of that changed. But if we were actually going to draw this for a set of architectural plans, you would have some detailed drawings on how this roof is constructed. So for this model, we're just going to use the basic generic roof. And then you would have that really detailed drawing of how this roof is constructed that would be included in your set of architectural plans.
Okay.
All right, so everybody drop. I'm going to send a new invite out for part 2 of this class. So thanks.